Hello, so today's video is all about helping you organise a meetup. So if you're the proprietary event planner or you organise a lot of meetups in your comm, I do recommend organising a range of meetups for a range of accessibility and price levels, but I'm just going to give you a few ideas off the top of my head. So the classic is to organise a tea party, be it at a really fancy venue or even something more intimate at someone's house. You could do a bring and buy. I believe it's called something else in other parts of the world. I know someone said it was called something else. Was it swap meet? I think that's what they said. But it's essentially where you will bring all the it's essentially where you will bring old pieces of lolita things and you will sell them and people may buy them and you may buy things that they're also selling. So essentially like a lolita car boot sale minus the cars. And the next is a stitch and bitch where you're doing some sort of craft, be it drawing or sewing or crochet or something. Or you may just sit down and you may just drink some tea as you get the tea, as you'll be talking and gossiping about life and things like that, and just having a really nice chilled out time. You could go out for a meal, be it at a fancy sort of restaurant or even something a little bit more intimate like a picnic somewhere quite nice, like a park or a sort of nice garden or somewhere. You could go to a craft fair, sort of vintage inspired or just sort of craft fair. A lot of the leaders tend to be crafty, so there may be some supplies you can get there. Or you could go to a sort of convention or something like that. I know conventions are more around cosplay and things like that, but generally people in the leader also tend to have some sort of nerdy interest, so it isn't something to completely dismiss as an idea. You could go to a fancy old estate or a castle or something, especially if you live somewhere like Europe where castles are a dime a dozen. It's sort of like they're around every corner. They're so ubiquitous that they're everywhere, and they're sort of just a nice sort of background to take photographs and things like that with. You could go to an art exhibition, and there are sometimes relevant art exhibitions. I've seen exhibitions on the idea of cuteness and some more sort of general Japanese themed art exhibitions. You could do a book club type thing if a lot of you in the comm enjoy reading, or you could go to a themed cafe if you have any of those around you. So you've met your local comm, they don't seem unhinged or they're unhinged in the right way, and you've got some ideas of where you'd like to go, and I think there are some things that you should probably take into account before you make that post and announce your meet. So the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of disability access. There are some venues which require steps to get in, or there are meets which require a lot of walking, and not everyone is able to do that. So it is good to, first of all, come up with an accessible venue or meet. So in a venue which has disabled access, quite easy there. Or if you have a meet which requires a lot of walking, perhaps there is a different way to get to a meet or participate, or just make accommodations for people who need it. And I know this isn't the case all the time, especially if you live somewhere where there's loads of old buildings and things like that, where at the time they were not thinking about disability access and it's just not possible to create that now. But again, try your best to come up with a venue which is accessible to all. The next one is quite similar, and I'm going to call noise sensitivity, noise, just call it noise. And this is the venue going to be noisy or crowded or things like that? So I think one thing to take into account is lolita fashion tends to attract a lot of neurodivergent people, a lot of people who just feel like they're not part of the norm, they're a bit different, it is an alternative fashion, and that may include people who have things like noise sensitivity or anxiety, or they get sensory overload. So if you know a venue is going to be busy, it's good to just note that down and think about that and make sure there are sort of safe rooms in a way. So one thing I like to do if I know I'm going somewhere noisy, and sometimes it is just a bit too much for me, I like to make sure there is a sort of escape room or somewhere to go, be it that going outside where it's a bit quiet and less people are, or perhaps there is a specific room that they're going to have where you can go and be quiet, like perhaps the venue's made a quiet room. Pro tip, I suppose, which you probably already know if you don't like noise. If you're in a situation where everything is very loud, go to the bathroom. The bathroom tends to be quiet and you can sit in a nice private room and just sort of clear your head for a bit. But if you're organising a meet, just make sure that if you know it's going to be noisy, that there is a way for someone to just take some time out and sort of just gather themselves together again. I think one thing to also note is not everyone will necessarily be comfortable with talking about their neurodivergence or whatever requirements they need in a public space. So just make sure you have a way to be contacted privately so they can come to you and ask you more details and ask you if you could accommodate them in any sort of way. And it goes without saying to keep this private. Another one is food. So if you're organising an event that has food and you're going to provide food, make sure you meet everyone's requirements, be that a lifestyle choice or an allergy, as no one likes to go to a venue expecting food and then there is nothing for them. So just cater to that. Another thing to consider is transport. So if you're in a car-reliant area and everyone drives, this isn't really a problem. I suppose your problem there is going to be parking and parking prices. But if you live in a big city, especially in places like Europe, we tend to be public transport people. We tend to use public transport a lot and rely on that. A lot of us don't even drive. So make sure it is a venue you can get to via public transport, otherwise you won't see too many people. And also make sure there are multiple forms of public transport. So for example, a train and a bus, or even a coach, I suppose, if it really comes to that. As if you do live in somewhere like the UK, where some companies don't want to pay their people fair wages, you will get a lot of strikes. And it has happened multiple times where a meetup has been organised and a public transport strike has been announced, and that has completely derailed, pun intended, the meet. One thing to consider, what is the age limit of the event? Is it an adult-only event or is it for anyone? What is the restriction? Is it an event which will have alcohol, which sort of feeds into the dietary requirement thing again? Make sure that people know, and if they can't drink alcohol, is there a substitution for them? And if there is an age restriction, note that, otherwise some people will be quite disappointed if they do not meet that requirement and end up there on the day and can't get in. Other things to consider is a strict itinerary or a more casual thing? Are you going from certain places and will you be essentially micromanaged? It's good to just point that out so people don't wander off and go do whatever. Is it going to be a messy meet? Is it going to be a meet with a lot of crafting or things like that? If it is, you probably don't want to come out in your super expensive brand special set, which cost thousands upon thousands, and get glue all over it. You'll be very upset. You probably want to bring out the Bodyline or Taobao or just whatever sort of brand or whatever that you've got that's more affordable and that you can put in the washing machine and easily wash. And one thing to take note is it a public event or a private event? Some people may not have worn lolita out in public that often. They may not be used to getting questions and photographs and just dealing with the general public in a very polite way. They haven't had their lolita PR training, I suppose, if you want to put it like that. And it's just good to take notes, and if you haven't done that before, or if you need to sort of mentally prepare to deal with the general public. Okay, so you've got your meet idea. How are you going to let people know about it? So in this day and age, it is quite easy. You just go online. So the main places are going to be Facebook and Discord. I think those are the two social medias lolita comms will tend to use, but use the social media that your comm uses as you're in. And if you're on Facebook, you can just put an event page up and put all the details in. And I'm sure you can do a similar thing on Discord as well. That one is quite straightforward. I just like to use the prompts who won, I keep saying who won, who, what, where, when, why. So you get all of the details in and you don't miss anything. So the next thing is going to be setting some rules. So most people are lovely, level-headed, but some people may be unhinged, or they may just not be thinking and they may do something which you didn't expect them to do. So these are just a couple of basic things that are just good to include. The first thing is going to be lateness. So with a lot of meets, especially casual ones, you will just meet at a meeting place before you go off to the venue, and you could easily wait for someone if they're going to be late. And if you can, just take note of that, so they don't have to worry as much. But some things, especially the booking or something, you may have to be there on time, and sometimes things happen. Sometimes the public transport is awful and you're late and it's out of your control, but you need to know that if you don't get there on time, they're going to go to the venue. And of course, make sure you have a way to contact everyone, because if someone is late, you want to make sure that they can get to the venue, even if it's on their own. So just make sure you can contact them so you can help them get there, because we want everyone to get there, we want everyone to have fun. And are plus ones allowed or not? So do you want people to bring friends or partners, or do you not want them to bring friends or partners? Do you want the partners to be dressed in casual way? Do you want the partners to be wearing casual, whatever they want, jeans and t-shirts sort of thing? Do you want them to be wearing something that's sort of nice but not necessarily lolita? Or do you want them to be like in the lolita or in OG, or just like literally part of the group? So think about what you want them to do if you want a plus one there at all. And children, and I know this one may sound a little bit left field, but some unhinged person has tried to bring children to an event before, and the thing to realize is, you know, the people who are coming to the meetup are coming to enjoy themselves. They're not coming here to be a childminder. They're not coming here to look after your child. So do you want people to bring children if they have them, and they have to essentially mind their child? Do you not want children at all at the event? This is something that's unlikely to happen, but I have heard it happen before. So if you know someone has children perhaps as well, just say leave the children at home. And if someone is not being very nice at the meetup, or they're not paying attention to the rules and things like that, I would bring it up with the moderator in your local comm, and chances are they will take note of it. And if it's happened many a time, they will soon be out of the group or had a warning, or however it works in your local comm. And the thing is, at least in the UK, all the mods tend to know each other and talk to each other. So if you've been problematic in one area and then in another area, they can cross-reference it, and they will know that they are a red flag and they shouldn't be included anywhere. So make sure you're nice. Obviously, don't be scared of this if you're a lovely, normal person, and if you've just made an honest mistake, they're not going to immediately boot you out. They're going to only boot you out if you're completely unhinged and haven't listened multiple times and are a horrible person. So don't worry about that if you're a nice person. Now on to the fun part, which is the treat bag, or the party bag, or the fun bag. And that's just a bag of just fun things you would give your guests. So you could do this at the beginning or at the end. And I tend to like to do this at the beginning, because sometimes people leave the meet early and then you've just got extra bags and you haven't been able to give them to one of your people who have attended. So the treat bag can be comprised of pretty much anything. So most commonly I get things like postcards with artwork on that people have drawn, and stickers and general cute things. And not everyone is artistically inclined, so you could include things like small little lip glosses, or things like sweets, or things like those cute little Japanese rubbers, or just anything sort of weeby. Anything Sanrio sort of works. That generally is a good shout. Any sort of small trinkets or keyrings or anything sort of cute. And anything relevant to the meet. Maybe you went to a meet about wine tasting, I don't know, and maybe you could include little wine samples or something like that, for example. My personal favourite treat, I suppose, is the Polaroid. So some people in our comm have those cute modern Polaroids, and what they will do, they will take a photo of you, and then you will have a photo to take home of you in the meet in like a cute little Polaroid. And that's just a nice little sort of keepsake you can put somewhere nice, like a scrapbook or something. And I think that's just a nice sort of memory. Maybe that's just me being quite sentimental, but that's one of my favourites. And that's it, we're done. We have hosted our meet. It has gone successfully and everyone has gone home and they're very happy. So yeah, I would say if I have missed something out, because chances are I have, feel free to add in the comments below. And go and have fun and enjoy, host your meet. Tell me how it went. I'm actually really intrigued that you might have some really cool things in your area that you do, or just some cool ideas which are better than mine. So feel free to share anything fun that's happened, or even any horror stories if you want. We can learn from meets that went well and didn't go well. And with that, go and have fun with fashion. Bye!